Author to Authority podcast, and today I love having my co-host Juanita Wootton-Radko on the show. And we are going to be starting the first of a 6-part series based on the new book that I'm writing this year, which is titled Author to Authority, as if you could not guess. And I'm doing this because I am exploring some of the different ideas. I already know what I want this book to be about, but Juanita and I were thinking about topics, and I thought, it would be really great to do a whole series on the book and just some of the things that I'm going to be sharing in the book and throughout the writing process. And if you've ever written a book, or if you've never written a book, sometimes talking about it with people and sharing the ideas you have really helps you to clarify what it is your main messaging of the book. Now, I do have that main messaging, but there's 6 key areas that you really need to grow in to become that authority in the niche. And I wanted just to share part of my writing journey with you as the book is being written. And so today we are going to be covering the first of the 6 key areas, which is communication. And over the next few episodes, we'll be covering person to person. We'll be covering marketing, social media, your network. We're going to be covering all of the 6 key areas. And I think I just mentioned 5, but well, on the next podcast, we'll keep it a mystery and I'll give you the 6. So today we're going to focus in on communication. And just before we kind of get into it, Juanita, do you have any thoughts to share with us?
Hi, Kim. I love this concept. This is going to be such a great thing to share with our audience. And I think people will really appreciate getting to know all 6. I believe the last one was media.
Yes, media. Oh, you ruined the surprise, but that's
I
okay.
did. I just wanted to be included.
If you haven't guessed it, Juanita and I have a very long-term bestie friendship, and I love being able to have her as the co-host of this show. So when I talk about communication in terms of becoming that authority, there's different levels to it. So when you're first starting out as an entrepreneur, and maybe something I should cover first is the 4 rungs of the positioning ladder. So when you are a brand new entrepreneur and you don't have famous parents, which is most of us, you tend to be invisible. You're not known in your community. Your people don't know who you are and what you do. And it's a hard place to be. Juanita, even when you took over the sewing and you made it your sewing shop and you made it your own, people really didn't know who you were at first, did they?
Not at first. It was part of the contract, in fact, that I had to keep the name of the previous owner for 1 year. And there were reasons how that benefited the business with advertising and whatnot. But as far as establishing myself as an authority in that area, it did not give me any any branding at that point.
Mm-hmm. So people still knew you as being the person who worked in the previous shop?
Yes.
So when you begin as an entrepreneur and you're invisible, it can be hard because people just don't know how much you know and how much you can shine and how much you can help and you can serve them. But as you move up the positioning ladder, then you hit what I call expert. And expert is when it starts to get a little bit fun. You've been working on your business, you've been getting out there, you've been working on all the areas on communication, which we're going to talk about today. You're starting to get known on social media. You're out and out in person and making those connections and building that network. You start to really know who you are and how you help and serve people. And you start to build that business and you start to get that clientele base. And when you're in that expert phase, generally you're known locally and people know who you are and what you do. So locally maybe is not just necessarily your town. It can be within 2 to 3 hours of where you live. And so when you become that expert, it's nice because when you introduce yourself, people are like, oh, didn't I see you at such and such an event? Or, you start to get around and people start to recognize your name. And when you kind of get to the top of the expert positioning, you're starting to build a really good, strong business. You've got clients who are now referring you clients as well. But that just leads to the authority. Now, the authority is really the place that you want to be. There is a fourth, and that's influencer. And that's kind of reserved for people like Oprah Winfrey and Tony Robbins and John C. Maxwell and Jim Rohn and Les Brown and, all those kinds of people who have really built, that massive following. Like it kind of takes
rock
on
stars.
Yeah, the rock stars. But as an individual and as an entrepreneur, you can get to authority. And authority is a wonderful place to be. When you're authority, you are well known not only locally, but you're starting to be known across your country, maybe even across your continent. You've been making some really great connections. You've built this network of people who know, like, and trust you. You've got an established clientele base that absolutely adores you. They become your brand ambassadors and they start telling other people about you. And you have business coming in and you didn't even have to do anything for it because you're now known as that authority. And business is sweet when you hit that level. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to stop working on all of your areas because you still need to continue to build that audience, build that network, hone in on your communication. When you start hitting authority, that's when you can really start taking your marketing to the next level. You start to get into the media, you're getting on stages. One of the nice things about the authority level is you move from a one-to-one way of building business to one-to-group. So, when you're invisible and just getting into the expert, you're spending a lot of time talking to people one-on-one, prospecting one-on-one, and you're building your business, and that's good. But there hits a stage when you want to create that momentum and you really want to burst forth and you want to become that authority. Here's the thing about being an authority. You cannot run your business by yourself when you're an authority. It cannot be done. There is way too much going on. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why I hired Juanita. She is the book project manager of RTI Publishing. When you come on as a client in our company, you do work with me, but you work a lot with Juanita. And she keeps the projects all on the go and all the pieces moving back and forth. She's my right-hand woman, and I would not be able to run this company without her. She keeps me organized and on track. And it's important to know when it's time to start bringing on other people. And I knew that point when I needed to bring on somebody because I was overwhelmed all the time. The business was growing so fast, I could no longer keep up with it. And when I brought Juanita on, and she started taking over things for me, it freed me up to be able to even grow the business bigger. So when you're an authority, you cannot do it on your own. You have to bring in others to help you. So now that we've covered that, and Juanita, do you have any thoughts to share on that just before we get into the communication part of today?
it's a great point to say that, yes, you can't be everything all the time. You will quickly deplete, you'll empty your bucket, your energy bucket, so to speak, really quickly, because there are probably other aspects of your life, like family. Even if you just have a pet, they would like to see you once in a while. You know, you need to be able to replenish your own energy. And if you're always giving out, even with the best of intentions, even with the best heart, it's hard to maintain a sustained peak energy and give your best quality service when you are being spread so thin that you're like a very thin layer of margarine across the bread.
Barely enough to cover. And I think the other thing too, as your business grows, there are skills that you just don't have. And one thing I learned throughout the process was it was better to bring on people who had those skills than to try and learn all those skills myself. There are things I'm just not good at. Ask Juanita. She knows. We've been best friends for a very long time. She knows the things I'm not good at. She even reminds me of them every once in a while.
In a kind way, usually.
Always in a kind way. But I appreciate it. Because she knows me so well, she knows the things that I shouldn't be doing in my business. And so, you know, when we're having these discussions, she's like, Kim, why are you even bothering to try? You know, you're just spending a lot of time to learn something. And most of the times I'm learning something I really don't like in the first place. So like, there's no motivation there to really learn it. And that's, you know, when my wonderful friend comes in and says, Kim, I think we need to look at getting someone to help you there. And you know what? She's right. And when I do, it's like, oh, wow, I can really focus in on the things that I love and enjoy. And when I'm doing things that I don't like, then it drags and it goes on and it doesn't get done. So
even if you don't like it, or even if you do an excellent job, but you don't like it, a little bit of that, this is like eating liver and lima beans right now, comes across in how you're doing it, right? Somebody out there is going, but liver and lima beans are the absolute most delicious thing. Well, God bless you for thinking so. Thank goodness there are people who like that.
Beef industry going. I know when you were saying that, there was just one A word that came to my mind, and it's called accounting. I'm very good at it. Don't like it. Mm-hmm. But I can do it when it has to be done. So when you look at all these things in terms of becoming an authority, it's important to recognize those things. But I do want to get into the main theme of today, and it's a theme that Juanita and I hold near and dear to our heart, and that is communication. And when I say communication, what I'm talking about is your messaging. When you are an invisible, it's one of the ways that you stand out and be noticed is by how you communicate with those around you. So when you are at a networking event and you introduce yourself, do you know who you are? Do you know who you serve? And can you clearly and succinctly tell people how you serve them? Those are three of the communication basics. And when you can do that, it also affects all the other areas as well. So you're going to notice when you get a copy of the Author to Authority book that a lot of these areas overlap. So when you've got your communication strong, you know, it allows you to build a good network. because you know who you serve, and you also know who you do not serve. And sometimes that's just as important. And when you're building your network of people, if you know who you serve and you start building your network, then you can let your network know who it is you're looking for. You can get those amazing referral partners who are connected to the people that you want to serve. You know, you aren't wasting your time getting clientele that's going to wear you out because they weren't the right people in the first place. Both Juanita and I have had that experience, not only in RTI Publishing, but in other companies where we've had that clientele that really weren't the right ones for us. You know, and that clientele, they're hard to work with. They want to nickel and dime you down to the lowest possible price possible. They complain about everything.
Mm-hmm.
They have unreasonable demands on your time. And they always want something extra because they think, oh, they're paying you, so you should be going out of your way, even though they've nickeled and dimed you to the point where you're barely making any profit on the thing to begin with. And yet then they want more. You know, these are the people who make your life miserable.
I can picture a couple of individuals to this day. Yeah, that's so true, Kim. The important thing to realize is that you need to qualify yourself as well as your client. Mm-hmm. And when I say qualify yourself, I mean that understanding of who's my ideal person, who do I want to work with. I'm looking for someone in this market, in this price range, and they will have an interest in my sewing example that I'm always going back to. I often was looking for my higher end machines. When I was trying to sell a higher end machine, I was looking for an older woman who had grandchildren, who had worked. I knew that as much as a young mother might like to have an embroidery sewing machine, chances were with a new baby, she didn't have the time or the income to afford the machine or take the classes, and there would always be these other needs for attention and resources away from the machine, so it wasn't a good fit.
Yeah.
And I modified, so I qualified myself in the sense that, okay, if that's what you're looking, the kind of machine you're looking for, then what I can give to you is something in an entry level or mid to mid range. Mm-hmm. And the reasons this will benefit you are 1, 2, 3. And here's what you can expect from me at this level.
Yes.
And with that kind of interaction, both of you come away feeling more satisfied because you've agreed on what's a reasonable mm-hmm. amount of giving from both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things is when you're first an entrepreneur, sometimes you're not always sure who you are, who you serve, and how you serve people. There's times that you're still figuring that out. And that is okay. That sometimes is part of the process of learning who you are as that authority. But what I want to encourage everyone to do is to, like Juanita said, think about that ideal client. And not only that ideal client, but what special skills, talents, and abilities that you have. Because you can have an ideal client, two people can have the same ideal client, and yet what you offer that ideal client will be different than what the other person has because you are unique. So it's figuring out your skills, your talents, your ability. What unique way do you serve that ideal client? You know, there's a lot of industries, like say real estate, financial, a lot of industries like that where you've got a lot of people in it. You've got to differentiate, how do you serve them in a way that nobody else does? Mm-hmm. And you know, that was part of the process with RTI Publishing, is figuring out who do we serve and how do we serve them. So, you know, it came to the point that, you know, Juanita and I realized that we serve entrepreneurs, professionals, and coaches. You know, we're looking for people who want to move up that positioning ladder, who don't want to be invisible anymore. Or if they're expert, they want to move up to authority. You know, they're looking to have a signature book written. So they want to use this book as a foundational marketing tool. And that's who we serve. I get requests all the time. Do you do fiction? No, I do not. I do nonfiction. Do I do poetry? No, I do not do poetry. Do I do children's book? No, I do not do that one either. Though, you know, as a side hobby one of these days, and because I got a 1-year-old grandbaby, I might write some children's books for him. But that's not part of RTI Publishing. That's just me being Nana.
I think that raises a good point, Kim. You're allowed to let your ideal client change over time. You may add things to your repertoire, to your inventory, that you go, oh, wow, I'm a real estate agent. And do you know what? I love doing commercial property specifically. You might grow into a certain arena and refine your idea of your ideal client from there, depending on where you are in your life. Maybe you need more time with your family, so you're going to adjust and downscale your vision. You're not trying to sell the Sky Dome or the Rogers Center, whatever it's called now. You're working within your vision of
Yes.
of what you want to do today, and thinking about how you can serve in the future, and knowing that it can change. It is really helpful to know that you're allowed to change.
Yes.
As an entrepreneur. And one thing I wanted to mention when we talk about who we're serving is a client versus a customer.
Good point.
A customer is someone who has a straight transaction with you in exchange for goods or services. Here's your money, thanks for the thing. And if I buy a head of broccoli at the superstore, I don't need a relationship with the produce manager. I just want my green thing and go home. Whereas a client is someone with a relationship to the entrepreneur. And often when we're talking about these bigger ticket items, a client is someone who relies on the entrepreneur in this case, but it could be a lawyer, it could be a real estate agent. A client relies on the protection of that other person, that they are working in their best interest.
Yes.
And I feel that's a really important mindset, that you're trying to protect the best interests of your clients.
Yeah. And Juanita, you had said client when you meant customer at first.
Oh, did I? Yes.
So, you know, the customer is transactional, whereas client is, and I guess it's relational and transformational.
Yes.
So when you're first starting out, Juanita said, when you get to a certain point, you can expand out, and you really need to expand out. You know, when you're hitting that authority phase, you need to expand out a bit and bring on more services. But when you are first starting, you want to, as quickly as possible, nail down that key service that you sell. So, you know, and that key in service includes those three things, you know. Who are you? Whom do you serve? And how do you serve them? So in the beginning, don't try to branch out too much. You cannot do everything. And then until you kind of get that communication down and start seeing results, you're not going to be bringing any money in. So figure out those three things. Figure out that key product that you can sell. And then as you start to do it and you're bringing in money and you can start to bring in people, then you can start expanding out and start offering other things. But you cannot be everything to everyone in the beginning. Actually, you never should be. But as your business gets bigger, there's a lot more things you can do for people. But in the beginning, focus in on that one thing that you do well. And when you do that, it's going to be easy to determine who that ideal client is. And you'll really quickly, when you're talking to people, because usually at this stage, it's a one-to-one, you know, you're prospecting, right? You're going to networking events, you're going to online events right now. You're meeting new people and you're having those conversations, and then those conversations turn into business. Now, it's a little different, you know, brick and mortar. So we're not really talking brick and mortar here, though knowing those things definitely helps your brick and mortar business. But I'm more talking about, you know, entrepreneurs, professionals, and coaches, predominantly in the service arena. But like I said, some things do apply to brick and mortar. But knowing who you are and whom you serve does make the difference. And when you're out and about and you're talking to people, you'll be able to quickly determine who is an ideal client that you want to, you know, take the conversation forward, develop that relationship, and, you know, transition it to business. Or you're quickly able to tell, you know what, no, this isn't the right person for me. Doesn't mean you stop the conversation. I mean, conversation is good and relationships are good. And many times people who are not your clients can actually turn out to be amazing referral partners for you. So never discount a conversation, because you don't know how that person can help you in the future.
Yes. Often people, once you begin to grow and have a bit more recognition happen, people want to become referral partners with you, whether or not they're ideal clients. Mm-hmm. And that's something that you should consider, that this ability to partner is a value as well.
Yeah. Exactly. So one other point that I wanted to make was, it's okay to develop your communication over time. So right now, if you ask me who I am and what do I do, I would say, hi, my name's Kim Thompson-Pinder. I'm the Extraordinary Word Ninja. And I work with professionals and coaches and entrepreneurs to help them write that signature book that they use as a foundational marketing tool to build their business and position themselves as the authority in their niche. And people are usually pretty impressed when they say that. But 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I had no clue how to really define what it was and what I did. I said, well, I'm a ghostwriter. And that was about it. You know, then when I started RTI Publishing, it was kind of like, well, I own RTI Publishing and I help people ghostwrite their books and get them published. It was something that has grown over time. So if you don't have it down pat yet, that's okay. Don't let that stop you. Still get out there. Still talk to people. It was amazing. The more people I talked to, the more clarity I received, and the faster I was able to create that messaging that I needed to really get out there and shine. So don't be afraid to be talking to people about who you are and what you do. And if you don't have it down pat, that's okay. Like you, it's going to grow and it's going to develop.
Yes, having a clear communication of who you are is a challenge, can be a challenge for people. I'm thinking, especially if you've grown up in a culture that emphasized it's better to serve and not stand out as a leader. Mm-hmm. But if you're an entrepreneur, you're a leader by default. You have
yes.
to accept that role and work on that strength. So sharing your ideas and opinions can be a gift that helps in many ways. It will help you as you crystallize your idea of who you are, and it will help others as you lead them and by example. Mm-hmm. Keeping quiet does not make you more virtuous. It's not like, oh wow, they're so humble, they're doing great things, but they're so quiet. Nobody is talking about you. If you're so quiet, you won't even talk about you.
Yeah. Invisible. So Juanita, as we close this up, do you have any other final thoughts you'd like to share with us?
I would say one of the things that can really help you improve your communication skills is to search out a Toastmasters club in your area.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, Juanita and I are both members of Toastmasters, and we have both benefited greatly from that. The other thing I want to recommend to everyone is you can get a free sample of the Author to Authority book. It's going to be coming out in 2020. I'm saying that publicly, so I hold myself accountable. I don't want to be like the shoemaker whose children go shoeless. And so it will be coming out. But if you want to get a free sample, go to www.authortoauthority.com/free-sample. So authortoauthority.com/free-sample. And you can get a sample of the book and you can start reading it. And you will also be put on the notification list for when the book comes out. So if you've been enjoying these podcasts, make sure that you get the sample and you get on the notification list. So this has been Juanita Wootton-Radko and Kim Thompson-Pinder on the Author to Authority podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you on the very next episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.